In this segment, we'll do a hands-on demonstration in REDCap, setting up a survey data collection project. We'll look at ice cream, and particularly people's perception of ice cream in our survey project. Specifically, we'll create a new survey project. We'll code an ice cream survey into that project. We'll test the survey by entering data. We'll review test data using the export module in REDCap. We'll review test data using the graphical data view module in REDCap. And then finally, we'll delete the test data, setting up the project so that if we were truly doing a study, we'd be ready to go. In this simple example, we'll choose just a few variables as a proof of concept to setting up surveys. We'll collect gender, much as we have before, male, female, and transgender coded to 1, 2, and 3. This time we'll use a radio button, and it'll be a pick one option. We'll collect from the end users or the survey recipients' age in years. We'll collect that as an integer. Since it's a type-in number, we'll allow them to type in numbers between 5 and 110 years of age. We'll ask the question, do you like ice cream? We'll code that as no equals 0, yes equals 1, much as we have before. Only this time we'll choose a radio button again as a method of entry. We'll ask them what is their favorite ice cream. In this example, we'll only use 3, and we'll give them options of chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry coded in as 1, 2, and 3. And then finally, we'll ask them, how much do you like ice cream? This one we'll ask on a slider scale where the individual taking the survey will be asked to place the cursor on a certain line. The left-hand label on that line will say a little, and it will be coded in as 0. The right-hand label will say a lot, and it will automatically code to 100, so that wherever the individual places their cursor on that line, we'll code it in, it will transform it in as a number rather. Finally, we'll only ask those last two questions if they indicate on the survey question, do you like ice cream, an affirmative answer, only if they answer yes. Next, we'll log into REDCap. First, we'll make sure that we're logged into Coursera. At that point, we'll navigate to datacourse.org. We'll click the special Coursera login button here. And now we're in REDCap. We'll create a new project by going here. We'll name the project example ice cream survey. Just following the same directions that we did earlier. Create an empty project. We'll just build this one from scratch again. First, let's enable surveys in this project. Then we'll go to the Online Designer. As before, it's creating a dummy instrument called My First Instrument. We'll click here to go in and make edits. First, it starts with a record ID. We're going to leave that alone for now. First, we'll code in gender. We'll make this a radio button, single answer. Now let's look at age in years. This one will be a text box. And we'll validate it as an integer, a whole number. And we said, well, it probably wouldn't make sense to have anybody below the age of 5 entering data, and we'll top code it here at 110. This will validate the entry as people are putting their numbers in. Now we're looking at the question, do you like ice cream? So let's add that one in again as a radio button. We could choose the yes, no. It would basically do the same thing. But here we'll stay consistent. We'll save that. Now we'll ask, what is your favorite ice cream? Here this will again be a radio button. And now we need to ask, how much do you like ice cream? Here we said we'd use that visual analog scale. It's a slider. A little. A lot. We can see here that this is going to show up as a slider bar with a label over here, a label over here. I'll ask you to trust me for now that the clicking on the bar above and dragging it will set the response, and that'll code the position from a 0 on the left to 100 on the right. Let's do a bit of cleanup on this name, just to be consistent. And let's add some branching logic here. So this question only makes sense if they said yes to the ice cream question. Same here. Now let's add a few pretty labels. Maybe above gender and age we'll ask, we will begin a new section. Information about you. And above ice cream, information about ice cream. Let's make each of these fields gender, age, and the ice cream yes or no question required. We won't make the other two required because they're contingent on answering this one yes. Now let's just clean up a few labels, make them a little more human readable, and we've got a pretty good survey. We can come back here and edit as much as we want, but for now let's go to the data collection instruments again. We only have one instrument here. I'm going to rename that. I'll name it Ice Cream Perception Survey, saving it. And now let's enable this as a survey. Right now it's just any old data collection instrument. I'm going to tell REDCap at this point, I want you to render this one in survey mode so that people not logged into REDCap could take it. I'll enable it. It says, okay, you've got some other options here. First, it's going to guess that the title for this survey should be the same title as the instrument. In this case, that's fine. It's going to ask us if we want REDCap to number the questions for us via auto numbering, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll say here, no, we don't really want numbering there. If we wanted it, we would have embedded it in the question, so we'll just choose custom numbered. We can choose the option of displaying all of the questions on one page or one section at a time. You'll recall that we just created two sections, one about your information, one about your ice cream information. In this case, the survey is going to be short, so we'll leave it all on one page. We could allow survey respondents to see information in aggregate after they completed the survey. There are several options here. If you're going to choose one of these options, it's important to think about the minimum number of responses that you should collect before you start showing that information, mainly because of privacy and confidentiality potential issues. In this case, we'll just disable it. If you wanted to show a logo or a banner for your particular survey, you could upload a file here and it would work as you might expect, embedding it at the top of that survey when it's going to be rendered. And then finally we get down to the survey instructions. Here, I could type anything that I want. These are the things that are going to be displayed at the top of the survey after the title. So we'll seed it here with please complete the survey below. If we were doing an actual study, we would say something like the results will be used for something, and something about the survey will take approximately 1 minute to complete. Again, anything that we wanted here, it's going to be study specific. Okay, going on down, we can set if we wanted an expiration for the survey. If we wanted to stop working at a certain time, we could set things up so that survey respondents, if it were a long survey, could click a Save and Return Later button, and it would give them a code to come back and complete filling out the survey. Again, this is a short one, so we'll leave those two things alone. Once the survey finishes, then we could set it up so that the survey acknowledgement text says something that's specific for our study. Thank you for taking the survey. A random drawing will be held on Saturday, October 5th, 2013 to reward participants. Again, anything that we'd like, we can render there as well. Okay, at this point, let's just click on the Save Changes. And now we've got the information in about this particular survey. Let's return back to the previous page, and we've got a survey. Over on the right, you see we can always go back to those survey settings and change them. You'll also notice that there are notification options. If I wanted to be notified or someone on my team to be notified every time a survey was taken, we could set it up that way. And then we've even got options out here that if we were doing multiple surveys or multiple case report forms and we wanted surveys to be triggered based on input at some other time by users, then we could set up that in a very complex way. This again is a simple one, so we'll just kind of leave the demonstration simple as well. Let's move over to Manage Survey Participants. This will allow us to do a little testing. There are actually multiple ways to invite participants into a REDCap survey project. We're going to choose the easiest one, which is just having a public link or a common link that anyone wanting to participate in the survey could be emailed or have it sort of hanging off of a website. If you can get to that link, then you can take the survey. Other ways you can choose include inviting participants and having only those individuals able to participate in the survey. Again, this one is pretty simple, and so we'll just leave it simple in the demo. Here in the public survey link, you see that I've got a public survey URL that gets rendered out for me. I'll just copy that one to the clipboard. Let's open another page here, and I'll pretend that I just got that one by email, or that I just got it, just linked off of it from another web page. Now let's play around again with this survey. I'll say that I'm male. My age, man, I'm really old today. I try to leave that field and it says, hey, you should have provided an integer. Please try again. So it would nag me until I put an integer in. If I put in something like 40, it says, okay, let's go. But if I choose something like 4, it'll come back and it'll tell me again, hey, you said that this number should be between 5 and 110 in the setup. So you can see it's not only checking for the type, integer, it's also checking for the range. If I try to submit without putting in information about one of these required fields, it will come up and say, hey, you need to provide a value for do you like ice cream? So I'll say no, and then I can submit. And I get that message that we saw at the end, that we set at the end of the survey. Now let's just try it again. This time we'll check out that branching logic. If I choose yes here for do you like ice cream, now I get the chocolate, what is your favorite ice cream flavor, and also get the option to specify on this click and drag bar how much I like ice cream. I'm a big fan. Okay, so we've tested the survey. We can now go in and start looking at the data. Let's go down to, actually let's choose one of the add edit records here. We've got 2 responses coming in for that particular survey. This is the last one that we put in. You'll notice that I can't edit these at this point. So we treat surveys a little differently than we treat case report forms in that unless you absolutely specify that you want to break the glass, and if you have the user rights level to break the glass and edit survey information, it's going to allow you to see it, but it won't allow you to edit it. Again, REDCap is not going to hold your data hostage, and so you can set it up so that you can change those values. But again, remember that everything that's done in REDCap and should be in any electronic data capture system is going to be logged. So we could look at the data individually as we're seeing here. The other thing we could look at is using the export tool. So we mentioned this in our earlier demo where we could export all of the data. We could do it in several different ways. Sometimes in survey research, especially if we're doing information where people are putting in, just typing in free text information, it makes sense to sort of render those out in PDF so that they're a little bit more readable. But in this case, we'll just export, we'll do the display advanced options. Here are questions. We'll say, give us everything that we have. And we'll not worry about de-identification. We'll hit submit. And at this point, again, as before in our earlier example, we don't really know, REDCap doesn't know which statistics package we're going to be using, but it is pretty smart and it knows the metadata or the data dictionary information about your study as well as whatever data have been collected. And so we could choose, as before, options to be able to download the script files for the statistics packages that upload the data and get it rendered out ready for analysis. In this case, we won't do that. We'll just kind of look at the data as it's coming in. We'll look at it in Excel. So here I see the data as it's output with labels. I've got two entries. First one I answered no to the ice cream like question, and in that case it didn't give me the option of answering the last two. In the second case I answered yes. You'll recall that my answer was chocolate on my favorite, and I chose the very right-hand side of that slider scale, which codes over to 100. If I prefer the raw data, I can just choose the other icon here and open it up. And you'll see that in this case, I don't have the chocolate label. I have the actual coded variables that were entered. Now, in most cases, you're not really going to want to analyze your data sets in Excel. But again, you've got these great features that allow you to download the data and the script files into the different statistics packages. And so really, if you add enough test data in, you know what the data is going to come out looking like. You've tested it. You can go ahead, and we often recommend that individual research teams go ahead and start writing out the analysis scripts before collecting the data. That allows, with only this test data, that allows you really to sort of go from front to back, data entry all the way over to data analysis in a testing phase before you launch the survey or launch the study. So let's go back up and let's add a few more records, and then we'll look at one other way to review the data before we go live. Here I'll say that this is a gender. She is 30. She loves, she's sort of on the fence about ice cream. And let's again go to another record here. We're just reloading that same survey. Maybe we've got another female that doesn't care for ice cream. And we'll go one more time with a male that is a little bit older. Okay, so now we've got a little more test data in, and we're ready to go. We can go now and play around with the graphical data view in stats. This really is sort of a univariate analysis of data for any particular case report form, or in this case a survey. It's really not meant to be a statistical package. Again, we really like statistical packages for analysis, but this is more or less a quick sanity check and a summary of the univariate data for your particular instrument. After choosing the instrument that we're interested in viewing, we can just scroll down the page and you can see that the test data that we've collected already, this is populating the graphical views that we're seeing. So anytime we have a categorical value like the gender question, it's going to be shown here by default as a bar chart. Anytime I have a numerical value like the age or later on that visual analog scale, it's going to show on this jitter plot. We can see the individual variables as well as the median. And again, for these univariate variables, we're going to do some quick stats on it to show the min, max, mean, standard deviation, and quartiles and median. Again, it's not really meant to be a stats package, but for surveys, especially quick surveys like this one, you can get a pretty good feel of things just by viewing these sorts of screens. So again, there's a categorical value on do you like ice cream? What is your favorite ice cream? With our test data, everything split right down the middle. And then finally that do you like ice cream question. So that is the graphical data view and descriptive stats module. Let's now go back into the project setup and we'll just finish things out. So at this point on this simple project, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting of the work that needs to be done. We've worked through the main project settings, simple study, one survey. We've worked through the data collection instrument, even gone through and tested. We know there are no identifiers there. We could look at the additional customizations, but again, for this simple example project, we really don't need to make any of the rest of the customizations live. Same with project bookmarks. We might look at just one quick thing under user rights that gets activated in the case of survey studies. Clicking on this end user, you'll notice that for the data entry forms, in this case surveys, one survey, anytime we see a survey there when I'm editing user rights within REDCap at least, we can have the option not only of read write or no access, but there also could be this special edit survey responses. If we initiated that here, I, as a user, would be able to sort of edit those edit surveys after they came in. But again, there would be this warning. There would also be this historical record of any of those changes that were made. Otherwise, it looks just like what we're accustomed to with our last example. Okay, so going back to the project setup again, we could add users if we'd like, but here we don't really need to. And we'll say that we've tested the project thoroughly. At this point, really, if we're just doing a simple survey where we're going to email out the link as we've kind of copied and done here in this example, we're really ready to go. Maybe one thing that we should do before we send it to folks or send it to our colleagues to do further testing, perhaps, we would just go to the other functionality. And I would typically always erase all data there. That way we're getting rid of our pilot data. We're really sort of making the project clean at this point. It's ready to go. On this training server, we're not allowed to move this into production, but otherwise, really, we'd be ready if we were thoroughly confident in our survey instrument. The next stage, if we were doing a survey where we were going to post a single URL that would allow anyone to take the survey, whether that be by email or by posting it on a project website or what have you, we could just copy the link to clipboard. We could just paste that into an email message and then send it to our intended recipients. They would then click on that link and they would be able to go and take the survey. This is the method that you should use in your last assignment to publish your survey. We've gone through now a very quick hands-on demonstration of creating a REDCap survey project, coding up a survey itself, testing the survey by entering data, reviewing those test data several different ways, deleting the test data. Really, there's a lot more that we haven't explored than that we have explored, but I think this gives a decent overview of how to do a simple survey type study in this REDCap platform.